The starting whistle blows, and you push off the block with all your might. You crash into the water and hear the rush of bubbles flow past your ears. There's a moment of calm as you glide underwater until you resurface again and the water starts to crash around you again. You see the wall and slam into it to finish the race. You know that even if you lost the race, as long as you left everything in the water, then it was a good one. This rush, I've been a competitive swimmer my entire life, and this rush was almost a daily occurrence for me, with many lessons learned both in and out of the water. So put on that cap and goggles as I share with you a bit of history of competitive swimming, who does it, and the rules and equipments that you will need to start. So swimming is not a new thing. There have been Stone Age cave drawings found of people swimming, but modern swimming wasn't really a thing until 1875, when Englishman Matthew Webb swam across the English Channel, which is a distance of 34 kilometers or 21 miles, which he swam in 21 hours. And then the first modern Olympics was in 1896, where swimming was a part of it, but there was only 4 swimming events, and it was all swam in the Mediterranean Sea. Women were first allowed in the Olympics in 1912, where they swam, but they only had 2 events. A famous woman swimmer in 1926 was Gertrude Ederle, who also swam across the English Channel, but she was only 19 years old at the time, and she beat the men's record by 2 whole hours. So there's 4 main strokes of swimming. The first one is breaststroke, which was the first competitive swimming stroke and just what everyone did back in the day. And then the 1900 Olympics, freestyle was first put in there, and it was called the Australian crawl at the time because the person who pioneered it, Richard Cavell, was in Australia when he did it. Backstroke was also kind of the same thing, but it was just a variation of freestyle, and it wasn't until the 1904 Olympics where it was put in as a separate stroke. Butterfly was first made in the 1930s, but it was just made as a variation of breaststroke, and it wasn't until 1950 where it was again made a separate stroke. My personal swim history, all of this was found on the Olympics.org. My personal swim history, I started at age 6 in River City Swim Team in Peoria, but I've been in the water since I was 6 months old. I continued to swim until age 18 at Dunlap High School, where I held the 500-yard freestyle record of 4:47.19, which was unfortunately just 2 milliseconds off of the state cut for that year. My team record when I swam there was 51 wins, 0 losses, and 1 tie. So now you know a bit about how modern competitive swimming started. So now I want to tell you about who is swimming competitively now. So the demographics in America. USA Swimming is the main swimming organization in America, and of their members, 45% of these responded to their survey that they sent out. Of that 45%, 31.2% were white, 5.3% were Asian, 2.9% were Hispanic, and only 1% were black. So there's many reasons for this discrepancy, such as parent swimmability and encouragement, availability of pools and locations of pools, family income, and actually in 1964, segregation. That blocked many families from going to the pool and learning how to swim. And so if parents didn't learn how to swim, chances are they didn't teach the kids how to swim because they weren't comfortable around the water. This was all found on exploring racial disparities in competitive swimming and a review of the black political economy. For the fastest swim states in America, there are 12 states that hold all the records of all 44 swimming records at the moment. And the fastest 3 would be California, Florida, and Pennsylvania, which just those 3 alone hold over half of those records. Illinois only holds 1 of them. In the Olympics, the most decorated Olympian of all time is Michael Phelps, and he has 28 medals in his career, 23 of which are gold. By country in the Olympics, America is number 1 for swimming with 553 medals over all the years. Australia has 188, and Germany has 95, with Hungary and Japan coming in 4th and 5th. So now we know a bit about who is swimming. So what are the rules and what do you need to swim? There's basically 5 main rules. As long as you follow, you'll be able to swim competitively. The first one is those 4 previous strokes that I mentioned. Make sure that you don't break stroke. If you're swimming breaststroke, make sure you're swimming breaststroke and not backstroke, which I've unfortunately been disqualified for myself. Number 2, different distances for each event. So there's the 50 meter, the 100 meter, and the 500 meter in high school. So basically don't go over or under that distance. Third one is do not touch the bottom or push off the bottom, and do not stop at the walls while you're swimming. The fourth one was actually introduced in the 1988 Olympics when swimmers would kick underwater for 80% of the pool length. So you're not allowed to do that anymore, and you can only swim under for 15 meters while you're swimming. The fifth one is when you're doing transitions at the wall. For flip turns, you have to use flip turns for freestyle and backstroke, and then for breaststroke and butterfly, you have to do two-hand push-off. And this was found at the USA Swimming 2020 Rules and Regulations Handbook. Equipment that you're going to need when you're swimming. For guys, you will need a practice suit, which is either briefs or jammers, and for girls, you need a practice one-piece suit. And these can be between $10 to $50 depending on what quality you're looking for. Practice goggles, the most popular ones are the Speedo Vanquishers, which can be $15 to $30. You'll also need a swim cap, which most of them you'll be able to find is under $5, but the higher end ones are up to $40. For these, if you're swimming competitively for really important meets, you will need a racing suit and racing goggles, and these racing suits, also known as tech suits, the higher end ones can be up to $500, with your racing goggles being up to $60. Miscellaneous stuff that you'll need for practice while you're swimming, you might need a kickboard, a pool buoy, and then maybe a drag suit just to help when you're practicing, which altogether would be up to $70. So overall, as you swim, it can be up to $100 or $750 depending on what you're going for. And this is all found on swimoutlet.com. So now you know a bit more about the history, populations, and the rules and costs of the wonderful world of the water of the pool. Next time that you look for that simultaneous rush and peace that can be found under the water, I hope that you remember this quote by swimmer Ian Thorpe. For myself, losing is not coming second. It's getting out of the water and knowing that you could have done better. For myself, I have won every race that I have ever swam in.